When we look at this paddock that's going to be the very next paddock to be grazed today, what we see, first of all, we see quite a bit of diversity and complexity in plant species in here. We see quite a few grasses, there's legumes in here, and we also see forbs, or what a lot of people might call weeds. For instance, we see this plant here. This is called horse nettle or bull nettle. Again, different people have slightly different names for it, but it has stickers on the plant. It's sort of an unpleasant plant to touch. However, cattle will actually bite that and eat that, under density. And believe it or not, this plant actually has a lot of nutrition to it. It's loaded with what we call plant secondary metabolites. And those secondary metabolites, even in a plant like thistle and horse nettle that are sort of thorny plants, again, cattle will eat these once they're trained to, and these secondary metabolites actually produce high levels of medicinal benefits and anti-parasitic benefits in our livestock. And one of the ways that you can tell the level of secondary metabolites, these medicinal benefits that plants are producing, is to take their leaf material, roll it around in your hand, and then smell the aroma. And the stronger the aroma, it'll be pleasing like a strong herb smell, so it won't be off-putting or displeasing. It'll be a pleasing aroma, but it'll be very, very aromatic. The more aromatic that aroma, the more secondary metabolites those plants are producing. And that means that they have stronger medicinal and anti-parasitic benefits for our cattle. But if I were to do just a standard forage analysis on this common ragweed, not only is it going to be very, very strong in secondary metabolites, but it is also going to be loaded with crude protein, TDN, and net energy. So its feed quality in not just the secondary metabolites, but the primary nutrients that we're used to, is very, very high. This is not a waste weed. It is highly valuable to all forms of livestock. And so again, these are things that under the right stock density, our livestock learn to eat very readily, and they benefit tremendously from it. Now, the other thing that we have to mention here is that these secondary plant metabolites are not only important to our cattle or to sheep or whatever other form of livestock we're grazing, but they're also important to other plants in the mix, because these secondary metabolites can be transferred from one plant to another through the mycorrhizal fungi that is interconnecting these plant roots underneath the soil surface. So these secondary metabolites can transfer to this plant, to this plant, to this plant, to this plant, and confer stronger pest and disease resistance and stress tolerance on all the other plants around it. So why do we want to get rid of this? We don't want this to be a field of common ragweed. But if I have a little bit of common ragweed and horse nettle and ironweed and sumac or whatever else may be in here, that's actually very good, because now we've got a diversity that simulates nature. What we have to remember is nature never creates a monoculture. Nature always creates polycultures, and that's what nature is trying to do here. The other thing we have to remember about what we call weeds, weeds are actually our first line of defense. And that's why when we have damaged or degraded soil, bare spots, all that, what do we always see grow first? Weeds. They're not growing to aggravate us, to pester us, to cause us issues. They are growing because they are the best plant at that time to rapidly repair that degraded soil. And we need to understand that. They're actually doing us a favor. And if we're just patient with that, and also knowing that, yes, our livestock will eat that under the proper grazing management, then these weeds become a very valuable friend to us.
And it's a lot easier working this way. Instead of battling weeds all the time, all of a sudden, the way we graze, the cattle learn to eat most of the weeds we have here in the Ozarks. And it takes a lot of the stress level out of always waking up every day of how you're going to kill this and kill that. And we're finding many of the, what we call weeds, but they're forbs, are some of the highest testing plants in our pastures, and the ones the cattle go to very first when they come in. Plantain and chicory, the giant ragweed, those kind of plants, cattle just love them and do really well on them, especially in the times of year when our cool season grasses that we have here growing mostly in the Ozarks aren't really palatable.
But if you look at the mix in this pasture, it would actually be a huge waste of both time and money to come in here and to spray for these forbs or weeds and try to take them out of the mix. That would not be something that we want to do.